So this is video number 2 in what I expect will necessarily be a long series of videos. And if you're watching this video, I expect that you've watched video number 1, the video I made yesterday, and that you've also taken the time to watch that other video I invited you to watch. The governing body really are the rulers of God's people, and so that should be fresh in your minds in order for this video to have more success. So I intend to continue on with the same theme. New things are happening, and hopefully in video number 1 and that other video I invited you to watch has rattled your bones, perhaps opened your eyes to things that God and His Son Jesus Christ are presently doing, and that eventually they will have success. So in this video, I'm going to talk a little more about all things new, and also some of the things that you should probably now be thinking about if you have watched the last video and the other video that I invited you to watch. So one of the things I really do hope to accomplish in this video is to cement my audience's conviction that they are indeed the people who will learn new things, that you are the new wineskins that are less likely to burst upon hearing these new things. The ex-Jehovah's Witness community. And I'm going to use end time scripture once again in the book of Revelation, in the 21st chapter, starting in verse 5, to show you that these are indeed things happening during the end time, and make connections to things I talked about in the last video, and also the video about the governing body really being the rulers of God's people. So here we go. I'll read that scripture, Revelation chapter 21 and verse 5, when I get my glasses on. And it says there, in regards to new things, remember this is about new things that hopefully my audience is now beginning to understand. Verse 5, and the one seated on the throne said, look, I am making all things new. Also he says, write, because these words are faithful and true. And he said to me, they have come to pass. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To anyone thirsting, I will give from the fountain of the water of life free. Anyone conquering will inherit these things, and I shall be his God, and he will be my son. So there's a lot of intensely profound things there that are new and have everything to do with the ex-Jehovah's Witness community. You are the ones who should be inheriting these things. And one of the most amazing things here in Revelation chapter 1 is life. Everlasting life. So I'm going to make a connection that will help cement your conviction that it is indeed the ex-Jehovah's Witness community that will inherit these things. So in order to do that, I'll read something Jesus Christ said that has everything to do with you. So now in regards to everlasting life and the ex-Jehovah's Witness community, listen very carefully to something Jesus Christ said in Mark chapter 10, starting in verse 29. Jesus said, "Truly I say to you, men, no one has left house or brothers or sisters or mother or father or children or fields for my sake and for the sake of the good news, who will not get 100-fold now in this period of time, houses and brothers and sisters and mothers and children and fields, with persecutions, and in the coming system of things, everlasting life." So now, if you're a disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witness in the ex-Jehovah's Witness community, isn't that what has happened to you? In fact, isn't that what is happening to the hundreds of thousands of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses all over the world, in every single different language? They've left house. They've left their home. They've left their fathers or mothers, sisters or brothers, and even children. And children have been disfellowshipped too. And in fact, in the ex-Jehovah's Witness community, you'll find that there's people of all ages, male and female, who are now treating each other with love. Because of all people in the world, they most definitely do understand what conditional love is. And so now these are the people in the entire world who are motivated to express what real love should be, because they're very, very, very familiar with what love isn't. They know what it's like to be hated and excluded and shunned by your own fleshly relatives. So you are the new wineskins. You are the people who are most likely willing to learn something new without your wineskin bursting. You are the people who are most likely to inherit everlasting life. And remember what it said in Revelation chapter 21 about everlasting life? It's the people who learn new things. They are the ones that will see it when Jehovah and his son Jesus Christ start doing something new. Isn't that amazing? Does that cement your conviction that I am indeed addressing the correct audience? Okay, so back to that scripture I read in Revelation chapter 21. There's something a little bit strange in that scripture that the Apostle John wrote down. And I'm going to make an attempt to help you understand what it might mean. So just to bring it back to your attention, I'll read it again. So we're back to Revelation 21. And remember, it said, and the one seated on the throne said, "Look, I am making all things new." Also he says, "Write, because these words are faithful and true." And he said to me, "They have come to pass." That's weird. They have come to pass? But hold on. Aren't we just learning about these things? I suspect there's many in my audience that are just now learning about these things. Yet here it says, they've come to pass. So, what does that mean? Well, remember in the last video, in regards to new things, I quoted a scripture from Isaiah chapter 43. And it said there, "Look, I'm making all things new. You people will see it, will you not?" Suggesting that perhaps we wouldn't see it at first. And so when we did see it, they've already come to pass. And so now, if you spend a little bit of time thinking about that, I'm going to connect it all the way back to that scripture that only ex-Jehovah's Witnesses can fulfill in Isaiah chapter 66, the scripture I quoted in the last video. So we'll go to Isaiah chapter 66, and remember the weird thing? It's already come to pass. So here I am, Isaiah chapter 66, where it says, "Hear the word of Jehovah, you men who are trembling at his word, your brothers that are hating you, that are excluding you by reason of my name." Name of person is no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So what does that have to do with these new things have already come to pass? And we're just learning about it now, but they've already come to pass. So if you keep reading in Isaiah chapter 66, I'm going to jump down to verse 7. It's only a couple of verses away. Listen carefully to what it says. "Before she began to come into labor pains, she gave birth. Before birth pangs could come to her, she even gave deliverance to a male child." Who has heard of a thing like this? No one. It's new. Let me start again. Who has heard of a thing like this? Who has seen things like this? No one. It's new. Will a land be brought forth with labor pains in one day? Or will a nation be born at one time? For Zion has come into labor pains, as well as given birth to her sons. Remember what it said in Revelation chapter 21 about all things new? It has come to pass. It's already happened. And yet, now we're seeing it. Now we're seeing the new things. So do you see in Revelation chapter 21 how it's got everything to do with the ex-Jehovah's Witness community? And do you see why it says in Revelation 21, it's already come to pass? There's already an enormous community of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses all around the world who are fulfilling these truly profound end-time scriptures, and yet they don't yet see it or hear it. But now you are. You're hearing it, aren't you? Think about that. Okay, so now back to Revelation chapter 21, and we'll work our way towards the last thing that's very important in regards to watching that video I invited you to watch. The governing body really are the rulers of God's people. And so by now you should be quite familiar with Isaiah chapter 28 and the covenant with death. And you're probably now starting to think about just how spectacular Satan's deception really is. But now you're starting to see it, right? Especially if you watch that video. And so now back to Revelation chapter 21 in regards to all things new. And what does that have to do with Satan and his spectacular deception? Well, I'll read Revelation chapter 21 again, the part we need to understand. So here it is. I'll remind you, it says, anyone conquering will inherit these things. So, what? Conquering what? Or the better question, conquering who? Satan. So, I'm going to suggest to my audience that if you did watch that last video, you're now very close to conquering Satan. You can see through his spectacular deception. And if you can do that, if you can see through Satan's truly spectacular deception, you positively will not die, then you're conquering him. And the interesting part is that here I am helping you to do that. That's significant and will tie back to why the ex-Jehovah's Witness community are the right audience. So think about that in regards to inheriting the enormous blessing I spoke about in the last video. You're going to have to conquer Satan. And if you really did take the time to watch that video, the governing body really are the rulers of God's people, you're doing that. You are conquering and very close to inheriting everything it says here in the book of Revelation. An enormous blessing. Isn't that amazing? Wow. So before I end this video, there's one more connection I'd like to make to Revelation chapter 21. And so I'll read it for you once again, where it said in verse 7, anyone conquering will inherit these things, and I shall be his God, and he will be my son. So now I'm going to connect it back to Romans chapter 9, of scripture I read in the last video. And it's in Romans chapter 9, and I'll start again from verse 25. That's where it said, it is as he says also in Hosea, those not my people I will call my people, and her who was not beloved, beloved. And in the place where it was said to them, you are not my people, there they will be called sons of the living God. And so if you're in the ex-Jehovah's Witness community, you know where that place was, where it was said to you, you are not my people. Name of person is no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses. You are not my people. And so what could these people expect to be called? Sons of the living God. Remember what it said in Revelation 21 in regards to new things? I'm making all things new. It said, I shall be his God, and he shall be my son. Do you see the connection to the ex-Jehovah's Witness community and why it is that I'm addressing these people in my audience? Isn't it amazing? Sons of the living God, and he shall be my son. So, are you starting to see that there really is an enormous blessing waiting for you at the bottom of the rabbit hole? You just have to be willing to abandon all the things that you've been previously convinced to believe and see that there really is something new happening that's truly amazing. So that's it for this video, and until the next time, when I intend to speak a little more about new things.